Well, hello again. It's been about a couple of weeks. I guess it's time to put up at least a short video. We're going to start out with the voltage regulator today. It's something that needs to be covered. You'll notice that the original regulator on the 1966 Thunderbird, and probably on the 64 and 65, and maybe others as well, was a very large affair. Very tall. And there was a reason for that. They were neat looking voltage regulators, I always thought. But on your schematic, by the way, they're not called voltage regulators in your shop manual. They're called alternator regulators. Brendan used that term one day with me, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I thought he was talking about some regulator attached to the alternator. Then I wrote back and said, hey, it's a voltage regulator. And here's the reason they were large. Originally, they were just some relays that were controlled by coils of wire. And they were pretty good sized little affairs. They had to have a large cover. Look at the size, the thickness of that cover. So that's what the original ones look like. And then of course down here were your terminals, where you're plugged into with the wires coming out. A while back, that one was replaced with this thin one. You've seen it several times already. Very thin. It's a solid state. Now here's the reason I started this video out with that voltage regulator. This was the original internal wirings of that big thick black one, and Brendan initially said, in order to get power for our thermostat on our choke, hook it to the I, which is right here. We had I and A and S and F. So that's what we did. But then he got looking at what we had. He said, hey, that'll work fine if you had the original voltage regulator, but you've got that solid state one, so there's just not probably going to be enough current at that point of I on that new one to operate that thermostat. So he said, move the wire from I and put it over here to the S. And what that does is give you directly from the right out of the ignition switch. That'll give us all the current we need to operate that thermostat. So now what I've done is I've moved the thermostat wire. That's this red thing right here with the clip on it. It's going to plug into that right there as soon as I get done here and get that thing hooked up. We hooked it up to the green wire, which is the S. So the wires coming off the voltage regulator will be white, green with a red wire, of course, which I put in there, and yellow. And again, the I connector on the end of the voltage regulator will have nothing connected to it. The plug is back in, everything looks good. I'll again reseat it once I get the voltage regulator bolted to this panel right here. And what we're going to do, we have to ground, of course, there's a wire that we have to ground right here that needs to be grounded to this top hole and bolt. And of course the sound suppression capacitor has to be grounded also on this one here with the other bolt. Well, our good subscriber in northern Arkansas, Yankee, Johnny U, he said that maybe you should put some bulb grease on there. And I had forgot about that. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. And I checked with Brendan to make sure it would help me establish a good ground. And he said, yeah, it will. So I don't really have the bulb grease per se. I have the silicone grease, which is the same thing. I'll put a little bit right there and a little bit right there. And then we'll go ahead and put the bolts in and get this baby hooked back up. And then once I get everything hooked up, I'll go ahead and plug up our thermostat wire right here. And that'll be one more chore finally completed. All done except for one thing. For you young guys in particular, for those of you who have never worked on a car very much or anything else, there is a problem here, and that is that the wire is sticking out too far. It can be, it'll catch on something sooner or later. Maybe not while you own the car because you know it's there, or whatever it is you own that has a wire that's sticking out like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug it here. It is plugged. I'm going to run it behind the bundle, bring it back out, and it won't be sticking out like that. Okay, that looks a whole lot better. I also decided to run the red wire behind there, the one that goes up to the thermostat, and bring it on around and plug it in like here. You know, it was easy to do, run it behind this set of wires, bring it around, loop it in, and put it in. That way we don't have anything catching here, see? You know, little details mean a lot. Sometimes you catch something, you put tools and things down there and you pick them up or whatever, and you snag the wire and out it comes and it breaks off, and it's like, oh man, I don't believe I got to go through all that crap again. Just a little tip. Let's move on to the brake lines. It's really getting hot out here again. I just can't believe it just will not let up. And I want to kind of finish this video up. It's going to be short, I'm sorry, but you know, just to let you know some of the things we've accomplished. This is our T that I installed. The brake lines are now installed to the right and left front wheels, to the calipers. And the T worked out perfectly. The line on the bottom coming in is from the, that one right, if I can get it in the camera here, where are we at here? There we go. The line coming in from the bottom is from the master cylinder. This one here goes out to the passenger side brakes, and this line here goes out to the driver's side brakes. And I borrowed a couple of these clips off the body down below, replaced them with those band rubber insulated types. But I wanted to use them up here where they're more, you know, they're easier. If I have to do something here, it's a lot easier to remove this bolt, you know, 3/4 of the way and just swing that down out of the way so I can get it in and out if need be, you know, because, you know, the next deal here on these brakes is to make sure none of these fittings leak. Remember, I had to flare all the fittings myself, all the brake lines myself. So, you know, it could be a mistake here and there. I'm not a perfect person. I don't do anything perfectly, but we're looking real good. Let me show you what's underneath. On both sides of the car, the brake line was brought through the same hole where the original line came through. I brought it through, hooked it here with one of those rubber insulated clamps, and then hooked it again. I didn't want any vibration at all. You know, this is near the gas line. I don't want anything rubbing against the gas line, vibrating and rubbing it in while I'm going down the highway, if I ever get down the highway. Anyway, then you just bring it on around and loop it around and screw it into the flex line right there. That's all there is to it. So it's anchored real well. Shouldn't be any problem at all. Let's look at the passenger side. There's where the line came down from the passenger side originally, through that hole, went down, and there was a clip right there. One of the clips I borrowed to put on that T up there came from that hole right there where you see that clamp. Then again, you just run it on around, make your loop, and put it right into your flexible line. This is a nice tight setup right here. I was really happy with it. I didn't need but one clamp on this, and that's all they had originally themselves. So, you know, and there's no gas line to contend with, nothing else. Good to go. Last but not least, on those brake lines, before the next video, I'll have the entire system bled. We're going to bleed all the brakes, but I'm not going to do that in this series because there's a million YouTube videos on how to bleed brakes. You don't need me to show you the same thing 1,000,001 times. Okay, they're out there. Just troubleshoot how to do a one-man bleed on the brake system. That's all you got to do. Now, Brendan told me about something I had never tried. I heard about it, but I never tried it, and that is to do a gravity bleed of the brake lines. What is a gravity? I had, you know, I'm like, come on, I don't want to take forever on this. But he said, no, it'll work real well. Okay, blah, blah. I got no problem. I got plenty of time anyway, you know, so why not give it a shot, you know? So and if the gravity bleed doesn't work, there's two other options. I could always start the car and get somebody to sit behind the wheel and pump the brakes. You know the old story on that. Or if I get tired of waiting and I run out of patience, I do have this one-man bleed setup pump thing I can use. That should work well also. You use it with this bottle and hose and stuff. So I have three options to do, but we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and try the gravity bleed, and then in the next video I'll tell you how well it went. One other thing I'll be doing before the next video is I'm going to go ahead and put the oil in the engine. According to the shop manual, this can be confusing to some folks. Now you got to pay attention to this. The shop manual says it takes 4 quarts. That's right, but it's the crankcase or the oil pan that takes the 4 quarts. You have to put an additional quart in there for the large oil filter that this thing has. It has a big one. You go back to the very beginning of this series, you'll see where I screwed that large oil filter on there. And we're also going to be using heavy-duty diesel oil, and there's a reason for that. It has more of a zinc content to it, which prevents wear, especially on old engines with what they call soft valve seats. It's I think it's, let me see, ZDDP, I think is what this is in this thing. It says advanced wear protection for low emission diesel engines, but you can use it in your car. Prevents a lot of wear to your engine. So that's what we're going to do. Brendan and I had a very, very long discussion about what kind of oil to use in this car. It went on for a month and a half. We battered back and forth, battered forth. It was very educational. We looked at a lot of YouTube videos. He explained this and explained that. The YouTube videos explained this and explained that. Because, you know, when he said, go with the diesel oil, I said, well, I don't want to put diesel oil. It's oil. Okay, it's oil. It's just designed not to wear so much. So look up, you know, just type in, maybe in YouTube, can you put diesel oil in a non-diesel engine, you know, and or just type in, look up ZDDP, I think is what it is. It's that zinc content. Years ago, for those that may not know, I'll give you a quick rundown. When the valves were going up and down inside your engine, now your round part of the valve is here. It was going up and down, letting gas in and exhaust out. Every time it came back up, that round part on the valve would slam against the valve seat. They didn't just slam against the cast iron engine. They had little seats in there to keep from damaging the valve, but they were soft. And over the years, going way back, over the years that thing would constantly bang up and down really fast, and you know, and it would actually collapse that valve seat, and it would be sunk up in. You probably never knew that, but there are videos that show this. So this engine was rebuilt in I think it was 2005, and we don't know if they put new hardened valve seats in there or not. So that was the whole emphasis to discuss the diesel oil and how good it would do or would it not do. And we came down to I came down to his conclusion, which go with the diesel oil. Why not? So I went down to Walmart and I picked some up, and it'll work just fine. So I'll have that in the engine as well before the next video. The last thing, and I told you the video was going to be short, both of our wheels have been completely, or rims have been completely derusted, and the tires have been mounted. I took them up the road. I didn't want to wait a couple more weeks for our grandson, you know, to get down here, and there was no telling how long it would be before he moved his furniture out of the garage. So I decided, what the heck. I took it up the road to a little tire place that's just a couple of miles from where we live. I was not going to take them to Walmart, that's for sure. Walmart, they tear up everything. Last time I took a tire in to have the tire mounted, they dug up the rim so bad on both sides. It was painted. It was real nice when I took it in there. It was all gouged and dug up. I had to bring it home, sand it down, repaint it. I was so just ticked, you know. And then if you take it back to them, they always say, oh, that didn't happen here. You know, it never fails. They'll lie and lie and lie. And I don't know why. Maybe they're just afraid of getting fired or something. Anyway, I don't care. That's what happened. And but this old boy up the road here, he had one of his young guys mount the tires, and if you can see, there's not even a nick in the paint anywhere on both sides. He installed these things perfectly. Now they're not balanced. I told him not to balance them. It was too cheap to have it done. Plus, I want to show everybody how I'm going to balance them myself. And we'll do that in the next video. So until then, this is John.